Hi, I'm Ashwini Kumar Kota, and today I'm going to take a few minutes in this video to share a few thoughts on scenario based knowledge tests. All of you might know what scenarios are, and I'm sure using some of the scenarios for assessments and evaluations and for e learning per se. Let's take a look at few scenarios and how they can be used for testing the knowledge. Before we go deep into talk about scenarios, let's take a quick minute to understand what exactly is a scenario. Going by the dictionary, literally, a description of what could possibly happen is one of the simplest way to define a scenario. So when we talk of a scenario for e-learning, we are actually describing of what could possibly happen in real life and how the person's learning is related to real life situations. So when we design corporate training interventions at Excel Pro, that's what we do a lot. So when we talk about training intervention or e-learning intervention, the more scenarios which are created in context to real life activities, the more the probability the person learning and able to relate the scenario to the real life activity and higher the probability of doing it right when the opportunity arises. So, when we talk of scenarios for assessment, a scenario depicts a close to real life, as close as currently possible to real life situation, which the learner may encounter that he or she is being trained for. So, our whole objective of using scenarios is I cannot bring a real life situation to you. So, let me bring the next best thing possible under the current context of time, effort, energy, and money. Second is a learner's response or reaction to a scenario helps to understand the level of learning and his or her readiness for it. Now, while I can't bring a real life situation to you, I can bring a scenario and I can gauge the way a learner responds or reacts to a scenario to understand if such a thing were to happen in real life. The probability of the learner reacting in the same way is equally high. So I know whether the person has got it right, got it partly right, or needs to improve on certain areas to get it right. When we talk about the need, particularly, need for scenarios in e learning assessments, using scenarios for testing helps to get a better understanding of the ability of the learner to relate theory to corresponding action. This is a very, very important point because in most cases there is a risk of theory overload. If this happens, then that happens, and we can go on telling variables and variables and variables and situations or circumstances or models and a number of things. So fundamentally, we're right, we are talking sense. But with all the fundamentals, if a person misses the link between the fundamental clarity and application of knowledge, we had it because eventually everything is there, but yet nothing makes sense in real life. So, what we need to do is use scenarios in assessments where whatever the learners learned as a part of the program is able to apply to a good extent on similar circumstances, which help a person to gauge okay, if this kind of circumstance comes up, then how am I reacting to it? Less expensive than simulation and real life experiences based on evaluation and can be used as a precursor to them. Scenarios are quite easy to create compared to simulations and real life experience, both from the practical element as well as the time and cost involved in them. So what we can do is while I can probably create one simulation or give one real life experience for a person to go through something, and in some circumstances you cannot give a real life experience because if I talk of fire safety, I can simulate a fire, but to put a person in real fire, I need probably a fire to happen, and it might be too late to train somebody in the real fire. So what we talk about is creating n number of scenarios which a person can constantly go on engaging in. And over a period of time, the circumstances and the actions are quite matched to each other. And this gives a good practice for a person in terms of recall and application of learning. Having said that, when we say scenario, a scenario may not be the same for every learning need. Probably a scenario for a compliance program is very different than a scenario for a sales training program, is very different than a scenario from a scenario involved in a behavioral training or a time management program. So scenario has to be contextual to where the particular knowledge being acquired or a skill being honed can be applied effectively to get certain results for which the program is being conducted in the first place. When we talk of design options, the most easy and cost effective way is to create story based scenarios. But here we are putting a lot of onus on the visualization capability of the learner and the knowledge, or rather, not just the knowledge, but the language ability of the learner. So we write a story. Uh, Say John went up the hill and he walked in the direction of the northern direction. Say John went up the hill, he found a tree, he climbed the tree, he plucked an apple. We are creating a certain circumstance and a situation happening over there. But the learner should visualize the particular scenario exactly as I am visualizing it while I'm writing it. If there is a gap in comprehension, there could be a completely different perspective altogether. Graphical or a comic style. All of us have read comics when we were children, some of us read comics even now. So when we look at a comic, you see a graphic depiction and then this speech bubbles coming in and there's some text coming on top of it. So a graphical depiction is probably a much better way to depict a scenario rather than just textual depiction. So I'm actually visually seeing it. Okay, I can't see things moving, but I have an idea what you're going to tell me, and what I'm seeing is the same as what you have on your mind. Animated scenarios are a step ahead of graphical scenarios, where I've got a complete scenario enacted by animated characters. Why animated characters? Well, it's a little cost effective to have animated characters compared to real life actors on it. And more importantly, through animations, a certain kind of circumstances can be easily depicted, which otherwise using actors might be a little difficult. This is a bit costly affair compared to story based or graphical depiction, but where it's very important to get it right, it's good to use animated scenarios where the comprehension and understanding of a circumstance is quite good. Last and very important is, of course, a little different perspective is interactive or branch scenarios. When we talk of a scenario might come in front of you, but your reaction to a scenario leads to something happening which otherwise might not happen. Like suppose there are four people A, B, and C and D, and they all are faced with the same circumstance. A tends to go left, B tends to go right, C tends to stay put, D tends to turn back. Now all four have taken four different directions or taken four different actions to the same scenario. So the next situation they come across is not going to be the same for each of them. So you have something like a branch scenario where one action in one scenario leads a person to another scenario which some other learner might not go through because he or she chose a different path. So linking scenarios based upon decisions and leading them to a logical conclusion, because it shows one after the other, after the other, after the other. So the paths might intertwine, crisscross, but eventually a person knows complete logical progression of the thought process. So I think in one way, I take an action at a point of time in a scenario, then I land up in another scenario which I would not have landed up if I had chosen something else. So sequence of scenarios lead a person to a particular goal which has been designed within the assessment. It's right or wrong, good or bad is a completely different topic altogether. But as situations don't come as standalone scenarios, one scenario always leads to another scenario. So the point I'm making here is whenever you're planning to work with scenarios for assessment, don't just put one scenario and say, okay, yes or no, fine, thank you. It doesn't work like that. One scenario, a decision you make here leads you to another scenario. Take the person through a logical series of steps. Take the person through a logical series of steps where scenario one leading to a certain decision, you make a decision, you reach another scenario, and you make a decision, you reach somewhere else, and eventually a person knows, okay, I did this, this, and this, so I land up here. And you get to do a course correction or appreciation based upon where the person has landed up. Well, the idea is to keep the video short, so I'm just giving some broad insights and ideas about it. Designing scenarios is a very, very specialized field. We at Excel Pro do a lot of scenario-based e-learning modules for our clients. And if you're working on scenarios or planning to do some scenarios for e-learning program, feel free to reach out to us. You can always talk to us at 2520-4655, mark us a mail, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you with details. Or you can always visit our website www.playexcelpro.com and chat with an expert live at the chat box on it. So with this, I wish you all the very best for your next scenario-based e-learning intervention and assessments. Thank you very much. Have a good day.